I'm Mason. As I work now, I think to myself. I ponder how truly happy it is to see a family together, all smiles. I was raised by a single mother. It was just the two of us. I've heard that my parents divorced when I was 1 year old. My mother worked while leaving me at daycare, but once I started elementary school, she began working from morning until late at night. I can understand now that we were quite poor back then. For breakfast, it was usually cereal, snack bread until mom came home, and at night, we often had a pasta with tomato sauce. The occasional fried egg that came with it was a treat. Meats like steak were really occasional, but every meal my mother cooked was delicious. Even though she would come home late, around 10 p.m., I was always home alone until then. It's unthinkable now, but that was just the everyday norm back then. I still remember my mom's apologetic face saying, "I'm sorry we can't be together more." I always played alone. I was going back and forth between the parking lot of my apartment building, the grassy area next to it, and a small park a little further down the street. My clothes were a worn-out t-shirt. Maybe because I looked timid and was quiet, I didn't make friends. But I think it was good that I didn't have any friends. I couldn't have played like everyone else. After school, everyone would often gather at the local candy store, buy snacks and drinks, and then eat them at the park. I had no allowance to buy such things. I could not have joined a group anyway. There were times I felt lonely. But as a child, I understood it was just the way things were. Being alone was normal for me, but as I got a bit older in elementary school, my world expanded, and I had a special encounter. Walking down one of the back alleys from my house, I saw a dog with a beaming smile in the yard of the house, wagging its tail at me. How cute! I muttered to myself, stopping in my tracks. As I kept watching, the dog wagged its tail even more and started barking excitedly. Then, I noticed a lady, about my mom's age, sitting nearby, whom I hadn't seen before. When she noticed me standing there, she asked, "Oh, who do we have here?" I was surprised to see someone there and found myself at a loss for words. Then the lady said, "It seems Buddy is happy to see you. Want to come over?" Wanting to get closer to the dog, I nodded yes. The lady then said, "Come on in. Buddy is gentle. He won't bite. He loves being petted," she told me with a smile as I cautiously approached the dog. I tentatively reached out to pet the dog. As I did, the dog sat down, wagging its tail, and seemed delighted to be petted. Then the dog sat down, wagging its tail excitedly as I petted it. From that day on, I started visiting Buddy. On days when the lady wasn't gardening, I somehow felt I shouldn't go into the yard, so I just waved at Buddy and went back. Buddy always barked happily when he saw me, letting me pet him as much as I wanted. I loved that gentle Buddy. "You're kind to animals, aren't you? Buddy always looks so happy when you come," the lady told me, making me smile. As I was petting Buddy, the lady exclaimed, "Oh, I bought something new today," and rushed inside the house. She came back with something in a plastic bag and asked, "Mason, do you want to give Buddy a treat?" I nodded, took the treat from her, and gave it to Buddy. Lucky you, Buddy, getting treats. When I was in daycare, I missed snack time, I said to Buddy as he happily munched on his treat. I was just voicing my thoughts at the time. But now I understand. Perhaps the lady sensed something then. That's it. I'm good at baking cookies. I'm planning to make some tomorrow, so if you'd like, come over, Mason. Let's eat them with Buddy, she offered. The next day, eager with anticipation, I ran to the lady's house as soon as school ended. "I've been waiting for you." I was greeted by the smiling faces of the lady and Buddy. On a small table in the garden, there were lots of cookies in different shapes. "Here, these are your cookies, Mason." she said, and Buddy whimpered, looking eager. "Oh, Buddy's treats are over here. Let's all eat together." The lady had also prepared homemade apple juice. "They look so yummy, thank you." At the moment I tried a star-shaped cookie, a wave of sweetness flooded my mouth. "This is delicious. It's the first time I've had such tasty cookies," I exclaimed cheerfully. The lady smiled, saying, "I'm glad you like them," but tears were streaming down her face. Surprised, I asked, "What's wrong?" but she just shook her head, wiping her tears. A bit later, the lady said, "I'm sorry for crying," and explained why she had been crying. She once had a child who had passed away as a baby. If the child had been alive, he would have been about my age. Just thinking about it made her cry, she explained. "There's been a lot of sadness in your life, too," I managed to say. "I've had my share of sadness, too, but I want to live happily with my mom someday. I'll grow up fast and work to support her because she's working so hard right now. I want to earn a lot of money when I got a job. I'm wondering how I can do that." I found myself saying what I was thinking, probably because she told me what was on her mind. Despite my sudden outburst, the lady seriously considered my question. "Well, until you grow up, the best thing you can do is study hard. By doing that, when you get older, you'll have a lot of job options to choose from. From there, you can find a job that pays well. But remember, it's important to find a job you love. That's crucial," she advised. From that day on, I worked hard at my studies. When I faced a difficult problem at homework, the lady always helped me. I would peek into her garden every day, and if she was there, I'd drop by. For me, who had no friends, spending time with a lady and Buddy was a great joy, but that warm time didn't last forever. One night, while studying at home and waiting for my mom, the phone rang. The calls I usually get at night are only from my mom saying, "I'm on my way home," but that day, the call came earlier than usual. Curious, I answered the phone. It was from a woman I didn't know. After confirming my name, she said, "Stay home, I'll be there soon," and hung up before I could reply. Soon after, the woman from the call arrived. She worked with my mom. But what she said next left me in disbelief. "Your mom has collapsed. Let's go to the hospital together." With that woman, I headed to the hospital. Arriving at the hospital and sitting on a long bench in the waiting area, a doctor came out of the treatment room. "Where's Mom?" When I asked, the doctor squatted down to make eye contact and said, "It seems your mom has collapsed from exhaustion. She must have worked very hard, so let's let her rest quietly for now." That's what he said. He didn't say it in so many words, but I somehow understood what it meant at that moment. My mother had passed away from overwork. After that, I was taken by strangers and put into temporary care. A few days later, people claiming to be my grandparents appeared. They were strangers to me because I had never met them before. I don't know how they were contacted, but it seemed there had been some estrangement between them and my mom. "We are your mom's parents. Let's live together at our place from now on." The person claiming to be my grandfather said this with a bright smile. Though I was scared to suddenly live with strangers, I, who understood nothing, could only nod in agreement. After my mother's funeral, the day to move came. My grandparents and I were moving boxes into the car. "It's time to say goodbye to this place." That's when I suddenly remembered the lady and Buddy. I have to say goodbye properly. "Grandpa, please wait, just a moment." I ran as fast as I could to the lady's house, gasping for breath. "Hello, I'm here," I shouted as loudly as I ever had. The lady was inside but came out in a hurry when she heard my shouting. I told her about my mother's passing and that I had to go live with my grandparents now. "Take care." Crying, I petted Buddy's head one last time, Buddy licked my tears, and the lady cried with me. The lady kept rubbing my back, repeating, "Stay strong, be well," over and over. After saying goodbye to the lady and Buddy, I went to live with my grandparents. The journey to my grandparents' house felt incredibly long, but it was actually about an hour's drive from where we had lived. From then on, I lived with my grandparents, who were incredibly kind, and never once did I see them angry. They bought me toys and games, ensuring I lived a life without want. However, the shock of losing my mother and the difficulty in adjusting to a new school made me withdraw for a while. I spent most of my time shut in my room, but one day my grandmother brought me cookies in a box that she had received from a neighbor. Eating the cookies with my grandmother reminded me of the cookies the lady used to bake. Can I make cookies too? With that thought, I used my allowance from my grandmother to buy cookie ingredients. From that day, I began baking sweets. My grandparents were relieved to see me enjoying baking and let me do as I wished. I progressed through middle and high school and then went on to vocational school. My grandparents were always there to support me. Fully aware that my education wasn't free, I studied hard and graduated top of my class from vocational school. After graduation, I started working at a cake shop, gaining experience as a pastry chef. After working for several years, my grandparents passed away. For many years, I was alone until I formed a bond with Lily, who was 11 years younger and worked at the shop, leading to our marriage. Despite our age difference, which often surprises people, she's very mature and a wonderful wife. With my marriage as a turning point and having always wanted to own my shop, I decided to become independent. It's a small shop, but I opened a pastry shop with a cafe. This shop, started by my wife and me, has a special focus. When I chose the location for the shop, by chance, which is placed on a street with kindergartens and nurseries. Initially, I planned to open a regular pastry shop, but choosing that location sparked a new inspiration in me. Let's make sweets that even kids find delicious. It's not uncommon for young children to have allergies to eggs or milk. Therefore, in addition to making regular cakes, I also created cakes and cookies without using eggs or milk. The items we sell include strawberry sponge cakes, chocolate cakes, tarts, roll cakes, and cookies. The selection is limited and simple, but having egg-free and milk-free options quickly spread by word of mouth, and we became known as a delicious cake shop where children could also enjoy treats. Many parents and their children stop by after picking up their kids from kindergarten or nursery. On occasion, we are requested to provide birthday cakes that do not contain eggs or milk. As a little service, we also have individually wrapped cookies at the register for kids to pick and take home with them. I'm glad we set up shop here. The bright smiles of the children always give me energy. Having my own shop, a family to protect, and living a normal life was something I could never have imagined back then. Reflecting on those times, I couldn't have pictured this, but I want to cherish the happiness I feel now as I live each day. One day, my mother-in-law asked me for a favor. On a day when the shop was closed, she wanted help cleaning up her childhood home, which had been left untouched for many years. Since her parents had passed away, the house had been left as is, but now, she planned to sell the land. Before handing it over to the real estate agent, she wanted to clean up the inside of the house. On a day when both our days off coincided, the three of us went to her childhood home. But there, something astonishing happened. I found myself stopping in my tracks in front of the garden. The familiar garden, a lone doghouse, and as I matched it with my memories, I found myself inside the house. On a small shelf, there was a photo of a dog and the name Buddy. I might have been here when I was a kid, I muttered. When I murmured that, both of them tilted their heads and went, "Huh?" That's when I shared my past experiences. After hearing the whole story, she, with her hand over her mouth, said, "That story is true, isn't it?" "No way, I couldn't believe it," and started recalling her memories. Turns out, my mother-in-law was a kind lady from my childhood. She is currently a preschool principal, and it seems that her decision to pursue this career was influenced by me. Back then, the lady didn't have children, but after I was taken in by my grandparents, she became pregnant. During her parenting years, she often thought of me. Originally a child care worker, she always wondered if there was something she could do for children like me. So, when her child-rearing days calmed down, she built a small-scale children's center on the land she inherited from her parents, offering not just daycare but also support for families in need. "Because I met you, I'm now a principal," she said. "If that's the case," I said, and then I told her. "The reason I run a pastry shop today is all because of the homemade cookies you gave me. Being able to chase my dream and marry Lily is all thanks to your kindness. Thanks to you, I became a decent man." Hearing this, both Lily and her mother burst into laughter, perhaps finding it funny that I called myself decent. I had no idea that I had met her a long time ago. "But how come neither of you recognized each other?" Lily asked, puzzled. Immediately, she responded, "Well, it was a story from over 30 years ago. But really, it's strange. Even though you got married and lived so close, I never realized. We both changed too much to recognize each other, and we all laughed together at the absurdity." One day, with a serious expression, my wife said, "I have something to discuss with you." Curious, I asked what was on her mind. "I've been thinking if there's something I can do too." She shared her thoughts. Hearing about how her mother and I met, Lily wanted to do something for the community and the children as well. She had volunteered during her student days and had always wanted to contribute in some way when she could. She proposed an idea, suggesting we work on it together if it wouldn't be too much trouble. I agreed to her proposal. A few times a year, holidays and our shop's regular days off coincide. We decided to start a family baking workshop during these days. Since the shop was too small, we used the children's center. The plan involves enjoying the decoration of cakes and cookies without using any fire. I want to continue innovating within our capabilities, but I also plan to keep going as we have been. My wife and I share the sentiment. Here's to seeing even more sparkling smiles from parents and children in the